biblical theology, spiritual death is fundamentally defined as separation from God. While physical death is the separation of the soul from the body, spiritual death is the severed connection between the human spirit and God, who is the source of all life. Because God is entirely holy, sin creates an immediate, impassable barrier. When theology refers to spiritual death, it addresses a state of total inability, a condition that permeates every faculty of human nature. Here is an exhaustive, verse-by-verse breakdown of the origins, mechanics, consequences, and ultimate cure for this condition. The origin, the Garden of Eden. The concept is first introduced in Genesis, when God places Adam in the Garden of Eden. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. Genesis 2:17. When Adam and Eve rebelled and ate the fruit, they did not drop physically dead that exact day. Instead, they died spiritually. The immediate result was separation. They hid from God, experienced shame, and were banished from His direct, unhindered presence. How the condition spread: federal headship. If Adam and Eve committed the original sin, how did spiritual death infect everyone else? Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned. Romans 5:12. Adam acted as the federal head or representative for all of humanity. When he fell, he essentially bankrupted the human race. Humanity doesn't just learn to sin by mimicking bad behavior. We are born into a state of spiritual stillbirth. David echoes this in Psalm 51:5, stating, "Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." We sin because we are inherently sinners by nature. The anatomy of spiritual death. The Apostle Paul provides the most thorough explanation of this condition, showing how spiritual death permeates the mind, the will, and the emotions. 1. The diagnosis of total inability, Ephesians 2:1-3. And you were dead in the trespasses and sins in which you once walked, following the course of this world, carrying out the desires of the body and the mind. Paul does not describe humanity before God as spiritually sick, weak, or injured, but completely dead. A physical corpse cannot revive itself, respond to physical stimuli, or earn its way back to life. Similarly, a person in a state of spiritual death lacks the capacity to seek, please, or connect with God through their own effort. They are animated only by their physical nature, driven entirely by earthly desires and cultural influences. 2. The blinded mind, 1 Corinthians 2:14. The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. A spiritually dead person does not merely lack information, they lack the apparatus to process spiritual truth. Just as a radio cannot pick up a signal it isn't tuned to receive, the natural person perceives the gospel as foolishness. The text states they are not able to understand. It is an issue of capacity, not just willingness. 3. The hostile will, Romans 8:7-8. For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God, for it does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Those who are in the flesh cannot please God. Spiritual death is not a neutral state. A spiritually dead heart is actively in rebellion against God's authority. Paul emphasizes two definitive absolutes here. The flesh does not submit, and it cannot please God. No amount of human willpower can force a spiritually dead heart to genuinely love its Creator. The futility of the law, why legalism fails. Understanding the depth of spiritual death completely dismantles any framework of legalism. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be stopped, and the whole world may be held accountable to God. For by works of the law no human being will be justified in his sight, since through the law comes knowledge of sin. Romans 3:19-20. If a person is spiritually dead, Giving them a set of strict religious rules to follow is like giving a to-do list to a corpse. The purpose of God's law was never to give a spiritually dead person a ladder to climb back to God. The law acts as an MRI. It reveals the internal terminal disease of sin, but it has no power to cure it. Following a religious checklist or trying to be good enough cannot resurrect a dead spirit. Legalism attempts to achieve behavioral modification from the outside in, but spiritual death requires a resurrection from the inside out. The ultimate consequence, the second death. If spiritual death is not remedied in this lifetime, it eventually becomes eternal and permanent. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 20:14-15. First death, the separation of the soul from the physical body. Second death, the eternal, finalized separation of the soul from God's grace, light, and presence. It is spiritual death locked in permanently without any hope of regeneration. The antidote, the new birth and grace. Because humanity is completely helpless to cure its own spiritual death, God has to intervene unilaterally. The promise of a new heart, Ezekiel 36:26 and John 3:3. When Jesus spoke to Nicodemus, a highly moral, law-abiding religious leader, he did not tell him to try harder or keep better rules. Jesus said,
"Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God."
This new birth, regeneration, fulfills God's promise in Ezekiel 36:26. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. God removes the dead, unresponsive nature and implants his own spirit. The external rescue, Ephesians 2:4-5-8-9. But God, being rich in mercy, because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. The biblical solution to spiritual death rests completely on the finished work of Christ. Salvation is an external rescue operation initiated by God. Overcoming spiritual death means resting in grace and trusting in what Christ has already achieved, rather than striving to earn God's approval through human effort.